What's the inspiration for your movie idea? Does it start with the troubles of one or more characters, focusing on people with internal struggles and battling obstacles, discovering who they are scene by scene and coming up with a conclusion that will change them for the rest of their lives? This is an archetype that I think most people gravitate to when it comes to movies that they like, regardless of the genre. And it makes sense because we like to get attached to characters. We want to see them as people, and the better the movie convinces us that we are watching real people, the better we experience the real emotions while watching a film. But what if a movie didn't focus on people? What if a movie wanted to show or explain something to you that is more abstract? The inspirations for these films don't start with the brainstorming of a character's psyche or what motivations a villain has for our heroes to act upon. These movies tend to be inspired by ideas rather than experiences, where the character's motivations in the story are almost an afterthought, created just to steer the plot in a specific way that allows you to focus on the concept the film is trying to explain. The director I think that does this really well is Christopher Nolan. To most people, it seems that his dialogue is just spewing out something to explain, and he never tells a personal story which makes his characters feel flat. I can completely understand this criticism because, as I mentioned before, people don't relate to ideas, they relate to people. He knows he needs to tell a personal story for everyone to understand, and I feel like he tries his best to tell the optimal personal story he can with each concept. An example where the concept seems to surround a character are the Batman films. These films mostly discuss the philosophy and mindset of what being Batman truly means. The first discusses fear, and how controlling your fear and how using it on others can make you powerful. The second is about chaos, and how hard it is to keep the peace when morality and social structure is so fragile and any simple act can destroy it. The third film is about pain, when your body is telling you to stop and you know you shouldn't. Each of these concepts orbit around the character of Batman in some way, and in my opinion the most personal story Nolan has ever told while still discussing grand ideas. Memento achieves this as well, but in a bit of a smaller scale. However, between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, he made a film that was practically just a concept alone. Despite what the general population thinks, Inception is not about dreams within dreams. Inception is a film about planting ideas in someone's head, making them believe that they came up with the idea themselves. Because rewiring the human brain isn't exactly simple, the movie is an explanation of how it can be done, and the whole dreams within a dream thing is just a step of the process. When watching this film, you can definitely get a little fatigued from all of the explanations, and when it takes time to tell you the motivations behind the characters, it either explains briefly or for far too long, almost out of nowhere, kind of breaking the flow of the story. Even though there are still interesting character moments in this film, and added these moments would be completely confusing without the context of how Inception worked, Inception still feels like a movie focusing on concepts rather than a plot. It makes it a little difficult for people to get behind Nolan as a storyteller, as it seems from the surface that he's not really trying to tell stories. But sometimes you find a concept that most people can get behind, and also seems to lend a hand in storytelling. His latest film, Interstellar, only aims to improve his criticisms. Here we not only have a story that's grand in scale, it also tells a personal story that's so impactful, I personally have shed tears from it. Instead of discussing the intricacies of the mind and how our ideas connect to one another, Interstellar wanted to explain the concept of the human race as a whole, and how we're meant to be destined for far greater things. It discusses how any civilization progresses, and when we see the end of the road, what should we do? As a whole, our society should work together to go beyond our planet and discover what is out there, but at the same time, each individual person has their own selfish agenda, and that alone could be the downfall of our species. On top of all this heavy talk, you have the story of Cooper, who is going through his own personal and selfish struggles. He's tasked to find a new planet for the human race, but he's trying to do it fast enough before his own kids grow old and die on Earth. He's focused on his own personal goals when he objectively should be trying to focus on the bigger picture. As a human, you should be angry at Cooper, but as a person, you understand him. This combines the best of both concept and personal storytelling together, where each complements each other, creating a story full of big ideas while also almost being character-driven in its entirety. But even then, about half of the characters in the film seem to almost literally embody concepts where their purpose seems to be spewing out dialogue about abstract ideas like cowardness and love. These characters definitely have motivations of their own, but the way they talk and convey information can seem unnatural. So, in the end, when a film tries to explain a high concept idea, does that make the film worse? Not at all. Art has many ways to express itself, and film shouldn't be restricted to only telling stories about feelings and emotions. Even though personal stories will always be favored over set pieces and philosophical talk, if you think of something abstract before the characters, it doesn't mean you can't apply that abstract idea to something that can be personal. It's important to remember that we need to see how these concepts affect us as people. It's easy to explain the theory of relativity and how it can change the speed of time, but what audiences really want to see is how the theory of relativity can change us.